What's with these little white packets that everybody is using? Hi, my name is Dr. David Boyd. I am the private physician to most of the celebrity entrepreneurs that you follow on social media. If they're on social media and they're an entrepreneur, they're likely my patient. Follow me for tips, tricks, and advice that I give to billionaires. Welcome to my channel. So if you haven't heard of Zyn, Zyn is essentially a smokeless tobacco packet that folks will go and tuck between their cheek and their gum, allowing the distribution of nicotine very rapidly into their body. So it happens very rapidly simply because we have a ton of blood vessels in our mouth. This is the reason why if you open your mouth, it looks very pink. We have all these little blood vessels that are there. And combine that with nicotine, which nicotine is literally the most addictive substance on the planet. It's actually 4,000 times more addictive than heroin. So when folks get stuck on these Zyn packs and get addicted to it, man, they're buying a lot of these Zyn packs. So what are the pros and the cons of this? And is it any better for you than smoking? Let's delve into that a little deeper. So these little Zyn pouches, they come in different dosages. And one would hope that if someone's going to do it, they start with a lower dose and then eventually they start moving their way up. Now, my name is Dr. David Boyd. I am the private physician to some of the top entrepreneurs in the country. And I get this question a lot. That's why I'm making this video. I actually have a lot of my patients that are using Zyn. Now, I'm not a proponent for it. I'm not condoning its use, but I do think it's important that you actually understand what this is, how it's being used already, and the pros and the cons of it, so you can just make an informed decision for yourself. So nicotine as a compound is actually not terrible for you. It's been very much demonized because with the whole tobacco industry and smoking causing cancer, but it's actually not nicotine that's causing the cancer. It's the tobacco and all the byproducts and things like that that are actually causing it. Nicotine itself is just a chemical compound, just like caffeine is. So is nicotine itself bad for you? Well, the answer is it depends. What regular nicotine use can do is it can raise blood pressure, which in someone who already has high blood pressure, that could be bad. In someone who has a family history of high blood pressure that they don't know that they have it, that could be even worse. And the other thing that nicotine does is if you start using it, it's incredibly addictive. So stopping it is really hard to do once it becomes a habit. The other thing is it can actually cause emotional changes, things like headaches, mood changes. Folks become very irritable if they haven't had their cigarette or Zyn pouch or whatever after a certain amount of time. If you're a coffee drinker like me, then you realize, man, like once your afternoon coffee, once that 2 o'clock, starts to hit and you haven't had your coffee yet, you can get a little bit grumpy. So it's very similar with nicotine, that there becomes not just a psychological dependence, but also a chemical dependence that's very real when someone starts taking this substance. So let's talk about some of the pros, though, of nicotine. So when it comes to productivity, nicotine actually is a very good productive tool. It can help with focus, with memory, but only for short periods of time. And this is where I run into a lot of entrepreneurs, especially when they need to be on stage and be very engaging, or they need to move from one subject to another, or maybe it's a day where they've had a ton of meetings, so they just really need to be on point. Where I've seen folks that they'll start using things like Zyn on a regular basis so they can just be more focused. What's actually in one of these Zyn packs? I wish I had one to show you. So one of these little white Zyn pouches, all it has in it is it has some flavoring that's mixed in with some nicotine. And when you use one of these, it usually has some sort of a flavor to it, like a fruity flavor or something. Sometimes it can cause kind of a gum irritation just because nicotine itself can be a little bit acidic. And so it can actually cause an irritation of the gum. When folks take it, it usually hits very quickly. Why? Again, because there's a lot of blood vessels that are there. And those effects can be both good and bad. Some folks have noticed headache, nausea, that kind of thing. Other folks more of a euphoria. Other folks feeling that they're just like focused and a little bit hyper, which are all the things that you see just with nicotine use. So the verdict is up to you of whether you would want to go down this road. As a physician, I would say having one more thing to be addicted to, really not a great idea. And, also just, being practical, each one of these Zyn pouches, I think they're like somewhere around $10 or so, where folks, will use these things on a regular basis, going through the tins of these. But the important thing to know is that nicotine itself Can it be used for productivity? Yes. The question is, at what cost? Ask yourself this question. Is Zyn something that you would want to try, or is this a complete no-no for you? Would love to hear your comments below. Remember to like, share this video, and follow. And remember, health is wealth. Invest in yourself. I'm Dr. Boyd.